All right, let's get straight into it. We're not talking about profile pictures today. No, we're going deep, right under the hood of the ERC 721 standard. If you're in the trenches, building real-world stuff with NFTs, you know the promise is huge. But you also know the standard itself can sometimes feel like a real bottleneck. So that's what we're digging into.
So, here's the big question we're going to chew on. When it comes to tokenizing actual, useful assets, is ERC 721 really the master key we all thought it was? You know, the one key that opens every single door? Or is it just one tool in what's become a much, much bigger and way more interesting toolbox?
Okay, first up, the universal digital object. Let's rewind a bit to the original promise, which was, absolutely revolutionary. The whole idea was to tokenize everything.
Yeah, the thinking was beautifully simple, right? One token to rule them all. The idea was to have this single, verifiable on-chain certificate for literally anything unique. A house, a car, your digital identity, you name it. And if everyone used the same standard, boom. Instant, massive interoperability. It was a grand vision.
And of course, this idea took off. We all saw it happen with digital art, gaming assets, virtual real estate, all that stuff. And look, those were great proofs of concept. They showed the world what provable ownership could do. But for us, for people building industrial-grade financial applications, that's really just the prologue to the main story.
All right, Section 2, reality check. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Because when you take that beautiful, simple, universal standard and you try to jam it into the messy, complex real world, things get tricky. We're talking finance, supply chains, places with very specific demands. And that's where the friction starts.
And the first wall you slam into? It's a big one. Regulation. The moment your token represents a security, it's not a cute collectible anymore. It's a serious financial instrument. And as this quote from SIFMA makes crystal clear, you can't just wave your hands and ignore decades of investor protection laws. A plain vanilla ERC 721, it has none of that built in. No KYC, no transfer controls, no whitelisting, nothing.
Now, take a look at this table, because it lays out the problem perfectly. See those columns for a standard NFT? Token modifiability and token authorization? Yeah, they're pretty bare. The token is basically static. It's frozen in time. And that is a massive problem for anything that needs to change or evolve. Think about a car part on an assembly line. You don't just want to know it exists, you need its token to reflect when it's been installed, tested, and approved, all by different authorized people.
Then you've got DeFi, where the friction is all about efficiency. Just picture it. You're managing thousands of different Uniswap positions, and every single one is its own little ERC 721 token. Every mint, every transfer, it's a separate transaction. It's a gas-guzzling nightmare. It's slow, it's expensive. And this is exactly where something like ERC 1155 comes in and just blows it out of the water with batch operations. The difference is night and day.
So let's just nail this down for supply chains. A simple, static NFT, it just doesn't work. Yeah, traceability is great, you get that out of the box, but what you really need is modifiability. The token has to be able to change, to represent parts coming together to form a whole. And you absolutely need authorization, fine-grained control over who can do what. These are just not things that a standard ERC 721 was ever built to do.
Okay, but here's the cool part. The story doesn't just stop at, it doesn't work. The ecosystem did what it always does. It adapted. It evolved. Instead of giving up, developers got to work building a whole new set of specialized tools.
First on the scene was ERC 1155, the multi-token standard. This was the direct answer to that DeFi efficiency nightmare we talked about. Think of it like this. One smart contract can now juggle tons of different tokens, fungible and non-fungible alike. It's the key to those batch transfers that save so much gas. It's an absolute game changer for stuff like gaming and DeFi.
Then you've got this idea of a smart NFT. This is aimed squarely at that supply chain problem. The easiest way to think about it is like an ERC 721, but with superpowers. It's an upgrade. It's designed to change and evolve. So that token for a car chassis, as the engine gets added, the token itself gets updated on-chain to reflect its new state. It's dynamic.
And for that big regulatory wall we hit, the community came up with ERC 1400, the Security Token Standard. This thing is purpose-built for compliance. It's got all the legal and regulatory hooks baked right in. Can this token be transferred to that person? The standard can check. Do we need to force a transfer for legal reasons? It can do that. It's the serious professional-grade tool you need for tokenizing actual securities.
And last, but definitely not least, we have soul-bound tokens, or SBTs. Now, this is a really interesting twist, especially for digital identity. Get this.
Unlike an ERC 721, which is all about being able to sell or transfer something, SBTs are non-transferable. By design, they're locked to you, to your soul. Think of them as on-chain credentials that you can't sell, like your university degree or a certificate. It's not about what you own. It's about building a verifiable record of who you are and what you've done.
So, we've laid out the problems and the awesome tools that have popped up to fix them. Which brings us to the most important part. What does this all mean for you? You know, as a builder, how do you actually pick the right tool for the job? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down now. And here's the key takeaway, the big mindset shift you need to make. Stop asking which token is best. That's the wrong question. The real question is, which token is right for what I'm trying to build? It's not just a tech choice, it's a strategic one.
And this flowchart right here, this is your new best friend. This is the mental model. It's a super practical way to go from that big idea in your head all the way down to the specific token standard you need, just by thinking through your core requirements first.
Look, we can boil that whole chart down to 3 simple steps. Step 1, define your scope. Get super clear on the exact real-world thing you're mapping to the blockchain. Step 2, figure out your requirements. Think about those 3 pillars we mentioned: traceability, modifiability, and authorization. How much of each do you really need? And finally, step 3, select your token. Once you know your requirements, you can just match them up to the right tool in the toolbox. Simple as that.
So if you remember one thing from all this, let it be this. That original dream of one token standard to rule them all is grown up. It's matured into something way more powerful and way more useful. We now have this incredible, diverse toolkit at our disposal. You know, ERC 721 might have been the spark, but the fire is now being carried by this whole family of specialized standards built for the real world.
And I want to leave you with one last thing to chew on, especially when it comes to identity. For so long, we've equated uniqueness with non-fungibility, this idea of unique thing you can own and, importantly, transfer. But what if the real paradigm shift is actually the complete opposite? What if the future of a truly robust digital identity isn't non-fungible, but non-transferable? Something that's fundamentally about who you are, not just what you happen to own. Something to think about.